Hey everybody, welcome to Dead Reckoning TV. I'm Jay Friesen with Dr. Brian Mattson, and all this month we're looking at what did Jesus do? WWDJD. Or something like that. Anyway, the fact is, he may not fit the box that you want to put him in. Isn't that right, Brian?
Well, he won't fit in your box, and people have been trying to put Jesus in a box for a very long time. Scholars like to go back to try to find the historical Jesus, the one that's not shrouded in legend and all of these mythical accretions about him. And it's very funny how oftentimes the scholar actually finds the historical Jesus, and it's like looking in a mirror. He looks just like them. A lot of times what we like to see in Jesus is that he is a very good moral person. He's a moral teacher. He was a good leader. And so we can kind of pat him on the head and say that's a very nice Jesus. The thing about that is, as C.S. Lewis, the great British writer, once put it, is that Jesus doesn't allow you that kind of comfort. Jesus, as we saw last week, really does make divine claims. And Lewis makes the point that Jesus is either one of three things. He's a liar, the most spectacular liar that's probably ever come along in terms of what he managed to pull off, the world's largest and fastest growing religion. He's either a great liar or he's a lunatic. A crazy guy. Some of the stuff he says, if he's not telling the truth, really is kind of lunacy. Or he is who he said he was, and that is a lord. The whole good moral teacher thing, I think we can just throw out because, as the great atheist Bertrand Russell, the great 20th century atheist Bertrand Russell put it, he didn't think that Jesus was a good moral teacher at all. He thought Jesus taught that people were going to go to hell, and he thought that was horrific, and he wasn't a very good moral teacher. I once heard Christopher Hitchens at a live event say that he thought that the golden rule was a terrible moral principle. He didn't think he was a very good moral teacher at all. But these are the ways some people try to kind of hem Jesus in and put him into a box. One thing that historians cannot abide, they cannot tolerate, is an anomaly, something that has no natural explanation. They like things to follow in a cause and effect sequence. And if I can't explain something based on natural cause and effect, I have an anomaly. And I must not be seeing everything right. I need more information. They hate anomalies, and they've always had an anomaly with Jesus Christ. Here's this man who gets crucified on a bloody Roman cross, and then 3 days later, his disciples start claiming he rose from the dead, and then they go out and conquer the entire known world. Well, that's kind of an anomaly. People like to say, oh, Jesus was just another itinerant preacher. There's a lot of itinerant rabbis running around Palestine in the first century. Well, yes, that's true. Name one. You can't name one. These people all disappeared from the face of history. Jesus is an historical anomaly. And so all of these attempts to put Jesus in a box, it's interesting how they all come from the standpoint of we want a Jesus who's not really God. We want a Jesus who didn't really rise from the dead. There really was no resurrection. His disciples made it up, or they hallucinated, or something like that. We want to get rid of the supernatural so that we don't have an anomaly to explain. The problem is that getting rid of the supernatural gives you a whole new anomaly to explain. How does a guy who's got a ragtag bunch of 12 Galilean fishermen get crucified by the Romans, and then this ragtag bunch of guys just goes and conquers the world and has the world's fastest growing religion? There's no historical precedent for that. It's never happened before. It's never happened since. You might point to Islam. Islam conquered the world. They did it the old-fashioned way, with swords. These guys went out and did it by talking. That's amazing. That's an historical anomaly. And so these historians get themselves into all kinds of trouble by discounting the supernatural. He really did rise from the dead. Now they have a whole new problem to deal with, and they don't really deal with it adequately enough. The rise of Christianity is the historical question of all historical questions. How do we explain how this happened? How did they take over the world? Not with guns and swords, but by speaking a message. Well, it's because the message was radical. It's because Jesus really was who he says he was. The only explanation at the end of the day is that he really did rise from the dead. None of the alternative theories get you to the rise of Christianity. He really did rise from the dead, and what's the difference ultimately? How did they do it? It's a different message. Man-made religions all say that we need to sacrifice to the gods, we need to placate them, we need to make them happy. They're really angry at us, and so we've got to get ourselves in shape, clean ourselves up, and then somehow we're going to be able to get to God. Jesus comes and says, no, I'm God, I came to you. I'm sorry, but you have the relationship completely upside down. You're not coming to me, I'm coming to you. You're not going to solve your dysfunctions and then make me happy. I'm going to solve your dysfunctions and make you happy. That's a radical message. That is why Christianity took over the world. Jesus doesn't fit any of the historical boxes unless he was who he says he was. And the message was true.
Fascinating. You know what's even better, Brian, is that Jesus has our DNA, and we're going to look at that next week as we look at what did Jesus do all month here on Dead Reckoning TV. If you like us, please like us on Facebook, share us on YouTube, Vimeo, VO, Dailymotion, wherever you like to watch your shows, we're there. Share us with your friends. It's the best thing you can do. We look forward to talking with you next week. I'm Jay Friesen. This is Dr. Brian Mattson, and this is Dead Reckoning TV.